After 10 years, 20 movies, and numerous TV shows, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has begun to really fill out. Not just with title characters, but all of the supporting and related characters that come with them. Some of them had lasting impressions on the shape of the MCU, and others, well, not so much. We're gonna look at the most and least important secondary characters in the MCU. But before we get to that though, make sure you've clicked on that subscribe button, and while you're at it, ring that notification bell. No one gets any wings, but you do get notified of all the latest content, which is almost as good. Shuri. One of the runaway superhero hits of 2018 was without a doubt Black Panther. While it wasn't the cinematic debut of the Wakandan king and superhero, it was the world's introduction to T'Challa's kid sister and super scientist, Shuri. The MCU is not wanting for scientists. Most of the heroes either are scientists or were made by scientists or are friends with scientists or at the worst briefly dated scientists. Sorry, Thor. Okay, you broke up with her, sure buddy. But even as the Avengers science bros have to take a backseat to Shuri, while we don't see it at the end of Civil War, it's Shuri that handles the deprogramming of Bucky Barnes so he can rejoin society. When Everett Ross takes a bullet for Okoye, Shuri comes to the rescue once again to get the skeptical CIA agent back on his feet. Now go get him, Bilbo. When the chips are down and you need the science done right, you come to Shuri and her vibranium-rich lab. Shuri even throws some shade at Bruce Banner and Tony Stark's wiring of Vision. We may even find out that Shuri was able to save Vision after all before Thanos ripped the Mind Stone from his head. Either way, Shuri is likely to remain a key figure in the MCU going forward. Maybe a team up with Peter Parker? Oh, we can only hope. Sam Wilson, Falcon. Adjusting to a new job is hard, especially when you're also adjusting from having been frozen solid for 60-some-odd years, only to be thawed out in time to fight off an alien invasion. That what faced the first Avenger, Captain America. Steve Rogers had already gone from hopeless volunteer to science experiment to war bond mascot to war hero. Thrust out of his own time, he was left to redefine his role. While he had a friendship and mutual respect for fellow Avenger Black Widow, it's Sam Wilson, aka Falcon, that Steve Rogers can most relate to. A former soldier himself, Rogers meets Wilson in his new role, helping soldiers transition back into the real world. Sam Wilson can relate to Steve Rogers in a way that no one else is able to. Wilson takes on a daunting task, acting as the moral weather vane for Captain America. That's no small feat. Whether it's deciding to take on a corrupt shield or stand up against the world community to resist the Sokovia Accords and rescue Bucky Barnes, Sam is there to make sure Cap is doing the right thing and then back his play. He does what Steve does, just a little bit slower. All the while, he also had some much-needed levity, trading quips with Barnes and resisting Spider-Man's attempted citizen's arrest. Everybody's got a gimmick. James Rhodes, War Machine. If being the moral compass of a character as noble as Captain America is hard, being the moral compass of a billionaire playboy philanthropist genius is near Herculean. That's the unfortunate role that James Rhodes plays for the playboy Tony Stark, aka the Iron Man. Rhodes is more than just the Air Force's envoy to Stark Enterprises. He also counsels Stark on the proper application of the Iron Man armor. When Stark drops the ball with his irresponsible behavior, it's Rhodes that hops in a suit and reins Tony in, meriting his own Iron Man suit. The War Machine. Ultimately, there's no one who can tell Tony Stark no and have it mean anything, but there are a handful of people who have a chance at getting through. Rhodes is one of them, Pepper probably another. While Iron Man can summon a small army of robotic backup, his strongest support comes in the form of the War Machine armor. Without Rhodes, Tony Stark might have ended up as his own worst enemy. Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. There's not a lot left to connect Steve Rogers with his past, just his legend kept alive by fans like Agent Coulson. It's a lonely life for the iconic hero. That is until he finds out that Hydra has been using his old pal Bucky Barnes as their frozen programmable assassin. With a series of words from a book, Barnes can be instructed to take out whoever gave the commands. This puts Cap in a bind. He can't let Barnes kill people, but he also wants to save his oldest friend, and the only century-old Midgardian around. Other than him. Someone who knows Captain America as Steve Rogers, the kid who used to stuff newspapers in his shoes. Rogers' devotion to his friend has caused rifts not only with S.H.I.E.L.D., but with the Avengers themselves. Barnes, his past, and his programming is the tool that Zemo uses to drive a wedge between the two most prominent Avengers, bringing an end to the team. Barnes has been the story of Captain America in the MCU. He was what Rogers aspired to during World War II, and the thing he was trying to save in both Winter Soldier and Civil War. Rogers has been willing to tear down and endanger every relationship he's had to save his friend, because for Rogers, that's what a hero does, saves everyone. Barnes is an important demonstration of that. Even if your friends become the threat, you save them too. That makes Bucky the most important figure in Captain America's story.
He's with them till the end of the line. Oh, God.
Nick Fury, It was Nick Fury that introduced us to both the post-credit scene and the Avengers Initiative. From what we saw in the Captain Marvel trailer, Fury was a regular old super spy ready to hang up his super spy spurs when he met a powerful cosmic-infused former test pilot and her shape-shifting alien foes. This leads him to recruiting first Iron Man, and then the Hulk, and finally Captain America, along with some super spies to form the Avengers and defend Earth from threats like Loki and the Chitauri. It's Fury that also uses Tahiti to revive the fallen Coulson and eventually lead his rogue agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. against Hydra, the Hive, and whatever's going on with the Inhumans. Should we be talking about the Inhumans? I don't know. Without Fury, there is no agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., no Avengers, making him maybe the most important side character in the MCU. But that comes with an asterisk. After the Winter Soldier, Fury went into hiding, only popping up now and then to nudge our heroes in the right direction. He sends in the cavalry to save Sokovians during Age of Ultron, but since then, Fury has been largely MIA, sitting out Civil War and only managing to get that page out to Captain Marvel at the last second in Infinity War. Maria Hill. While Nick Fury has been present, pushing the heroes into the formation of the Avengers, there and just off to the left has been Maria Hill. Another agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Hill doesn't get a cool nickname like Hawkeye or Black Widow or even Mockingbird. She's just plain old Maria Hill. Hill only appears as a representative between the bureaucratic arm of S.H.I.E.L.D. to the MCU's more active members like Coulson's team and the Avengers. She also acts as Nick Fury's driver and support, something that could be done by any agent and almost no one would notice. She also gets to act as an expositional tool to let us know the fallout of the Hydra infiltration of S.H.I.E.L.D. and to tease us with a name drop of the Man-Thing. But we're not getting a Man-Thing movie or show, are we, Maria Hill? No, thanks. Thanks for rubbing that in. Maria Hill in the comics is a key figure in both the Civil War storyline as well as the House of M and Secret Invasion. But in the MCU, she just manages to remind us there was once a show called How I Met Your Mother. Ah, Robin. Not that there isn't any potential for Hill, as Samuel L. Jackson's 9 picture winds out and perhaps he retires alongside Cap and Iron Man. Hill will take over at S.H.I.E.L.D. and guide a new set of heroes against a new set of threats. We'll have to wait and see. Everett Ross. Fans of the Wakandan King and superhero Black Panther were excited to see the CIA agent Everett Ross, played by Bilbo himself, Martin Freeman, playing a role in Civil War, which also introduced Black Panther to the MCU. In the comics, Ross is the liaison to Wakanda and its royal siblings T'Challa and Shuri, fighting side by side with the two against potential invaders and attacks on the pair. In the movies, he's a little more hapless, filling in for the disgraced S.H.I.E.L.D.'s absence, first trying to take into custody Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, and later holding on to Zemo after Zemo used Barnes to drive a wedge between the Avengers. We later see him fail to capture Claw in Black Panther and eventually take a bullet to the spine, which Shuri fixes up for him. While Ross retains a slightly toned-down misunderstanding of what Wakanda represents in the movies, his main function seems to be underestimating the superpowered people in his charge. He does manage a pretty cool dogfight with Shuri's remote control setup, though. That and some exposition for Killmonger isn't enough to move Ross that high in the ranks of important MCU side characters, though. Even though we all love a little more Martin Freeman, don't we? Wong. There has been a Wong who has assisted the Sorcerer Supreme for 10 generations of Wongs. That's a whole lot of Wongs. At least that's the way it is in the comics. In the MCU, there's no telling how long Wong and his ancestors have served the Ancient One. At the very least, he seems more aware of the Ancient One's darker bargain than Mordo does. As the assistant to the Ancient One, Wong takes over looking after the library after the unfortunate demise of the previous librarian at the hands of Caecilius, and along with Mordo, helps train and guide Doctor Strange on his path to becoming a master of the mystical arts. After Mordo leaves to make less sorcerers in this world, Wong stays with Strange to look after the New York Sanctuary. If we're honest though, how good is Wong at his job? While he's watching the library, Strange not only steals numerous books, but he also gets his hands on the Eye of Agamotto, containing the Time Stone. When Thanos' Black Order shows up, Wong puts up a fight with Doctor Strange and Iron Man, but once Ebony Maw manages to capture Strange and the Time Stone, Wong pieces out to go watch the New York Sanctuary, leaving Iron Man and Spider-Man to board the Q-ship and rescue the Sorcerer Supreme. His humorless approach to the wisecracking Doctor Strange is priceless, however, so while he's not important to the MCU as a whole, he's a delight to watch. Ebony Maw. As the presumptive leader of the Black Order, the Maw seems to be an important character in Thanos' plan for the universe. He does manage to successfully kidnap Doctor Strange from Earth after the Hulk is now a no-show with Banner, but he's unable to prevent Iron Man and his prodigy Peter Parker from getting on the Q-ship and freeing Doctor Strange with a movie reference. An awesome movie reference. He hasn't managed to unbind the Time Stone from Strange, or do much other than look smug and get sucked into outer space. Granted, Thanos finds out about the death of Maw just after he was forced to sacrifice the only thing he loved, his adopted daughter. But even Thanos seems to take this news in stride. While he does eventually get the Time Stone, it's only after facing the closest thing to a challenge Thanos had with Spider-Man, almost pulling the gauntlet off of his hand. The other members of the Black Order manage better against the Avengers they face before being beaten. The Maw is like any big mouth, more talk than action. Happy Hogan. Being rich is not only a full-time job for rich people, it's also a full-time job for all the people rich people employ to help them live their rich people lives. For Tony Stark, one of these people is friend and confidant Happy Hogan. Happy takes on the administrative tasks for Tony Stark while he's off being a playboy billionaire Iron Man. While he's off being Iron Man. Prior to the Iron Man suit, he was also a bodyguard, but that's just kind of redundant now with the power suit and super spies running around. Ultimately, though, Happy ends up screening calls for Peter Parker and taking out one guard to Black Widow's dozens. When the disgruntled Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture, attacks during moving day, it's Spider-Man in his sweatsuit costume that saves the day. At most, Happy's there to show us how much better the titular superheroes are at doing things than the hapless Happy. Sorry, Jon Favreau, we love you, bud. Though while Happy is ultimately not that important to the MCU, the man who plays him, Jon Favreau, is indispensable. It was Favreau who directed the first Iron Man movie that set the stage and tone for the MCU in the first place. Meaning Favreau is one of the most important people to the MCU, even if Happy is one of the least important to the MCU. See? What do you think? Are there important side characters of the MCU that we might have left out, or recurring characters who haven't ended up being all that important? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell for more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.